I got involved in this both because I've got daughters. I want them to have a habitable future planet. That's certainly our responsibility as a generation to pass on a planet that is livable. And I think also I'm particularly interested in engaging the church on it. The church is really powerful. We have numbers, we have the Holy Spirit. Imagine what could happen if that happened with the church. So those are my real motivations in getting engaged on climate. It's the entire biblical story. If you go back to the beginning, we have a creator God who creates everything and calls it again and again good, 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 good. If we're set in place over creation as God's kind of final creation, to, as the actual words say, to serve and protect it, to care for it, to tend it, then, and if we're made to be sort of the hands and feet and voice of God on earth, which is really what stewardship is about, and what the human identity is, human role is in creation, then we should look at creation the way that God does, and we should treat it the way that God does. The climate crisis has an enormously, a higher level of impact on the poor, on Black and brown communities, on marginalized communities. So it's poor communities, poor individuals, poor nations. There are whole nations that just don't have a lot of resources. And so if we are Christians, if we follow Jesus, who himself became poor, and if climate devastation has such a huge impact on the poor, we have strong motivation. The church should start a high-speed pursuit of net zero as a congregation as quickly as possible. I have a lot of resources. People can reach out to me on how to decarbonize and to move your life towards net zero. But that's what everybody should be working on doing as quickly as possible, is stripping the fossil fuels out of as many aspects of their life as they possibly can. Now, actually, there are so many of the ways to do this are actually, some are quite simple. It depends where you are and what options are open to you. In some ways, you won't be able to pull out of a carbon footprint. Other ways, you'll have a lot more options, kind of depends where you are. But you should do as much as you possibly can, like yesterday. If you live in a little village on a stream, and upstream you have a factory that's pouring garbage into the water, and everybody in the village is getting sick, you can spend all your time and energy taking care of the people in the village who are getting sick over and over again, which is wonderful and it's good, and that's certainly the way of Jesus. But it's a little bit like Sisyphus's rock if you're not actually going upstream to deal with the polluter. So the most major polluters right now are industry, fossil fuel industry, so many things are powered by industry. Electricity, the energy sector, is being powered by fossil fuels, and agriculture. There are actually some really great ways to do agriculture differently that's more healthy and actually can make agricultural land a carbon sink. There are a lot of these, but these things aren't going to go forward without laws. And so if Christians want the change to happen on the scale it needs to happen, we need to pressure our lawmakers to pass legislation, major legislation, that can move these things along. Beyond stewardship, new approaches to creation care. That's more reformed perspective. That's edited by David Warners and Matthew Hune. I know at least Matthew Hune. I've spoken with him before. He's at Calvin College. Yeah, it's a collection of a bunch of different authors doing short essays with different angles. Great book. It gives you a lot of different angles, from Christian writers and thinkers. Very thoughtful, very engaging. The things that I see happening right now that give me hope. The climate conversation is enormous right now. It's really being talked about. If you went back just a few years ago, Nobody was talking about climate the way people are talking about it now. So that's number one. The you know activists like Greta Thunberg has actually had a huge impact on the public conversation, which is really all we just need. Will. We have the tools, we just need the will. That's all it is. We need the will. So so that piece gives me hope. Another thing is I see the movement of climate activism and human justice activism coming together and recognizing that they're both working for so many of the same things, and the two things are totally integrated, and you can't have one without the other at this point.